Today's topic of discussion is compromise. So if you look at today's society, right, a lot of relationships are breaking down. So divorce rates are at an all-time high. A lot of men and women are living in dissatisfied relationships. People are not happy with their partner and so on. So we're going to be discussing some key issues with those relationships and why it's so important to compromise on certain things in life, and there's certain things that you should not compromise on in life. So first point is internal. So I've mentioned internal in the previous videos. So internal relates to respect, integrity, morals, good ethics, and so on. Those are certain things which should not be compromised in life. So if, for example, you're speaking to a woman for marriage purposes and you're having a respectful conversation with her, and then let's say she stops communicating with you, she doesn't want to show the same level of respect and so on. You as a man, your self-respect should never be compromised. That's something which shouldn't be taken away from you. So if you feel as though that, let's say you're speaking to a woman and then you feel as though within yourself that she's not showing the same level of respect, gratitude, and so on, then you have to remove yourself from that person. So whether it's before a relationship or if you're in a relationship, if the person is not showing the same level of respect, it's really important to not compromise on your self-respect. So self-respect needs to come first in life. A lot of guys are compromising on that. So then when you compromise on your self-respect, a woman's respect for you will go down. Does that make sense, guys? So it's really important. But when it comes to, let's say, internal values which certain times need to be compromised is, let's say you're speaking to a girl, right? Sometimes she can be immature because, men and women, when they are getting older, so let's say through the teenage years, women will tend to become more mature. But then it gets to a point where eventually, as the guy gets older, he'll start to experience more life and then he'll start to become more mature. So when they get into a relationship, let's say a guy is older and then a woman's younger. The woman certain times can be immature. So the guy needs to have more patience certain times with a girl because that girl is not really as mature. You understand? So it's really important. Certain times you need to compromise on certain things related to that. But it goes back to it. If the person's not showing the same level of respect, then it needs to be a point where you need to stop communicating with that person. There's other characteristics within your partner that you're not going to like related to, let's say, internal. So let's say, for example, you're somebody who prays your 5 prayers. And then your partner, she prays, let's say, majority of her prayers. And then sometimes she misses it. Certain times you need to have a bit more patience with her and try and get her on the same page. It shouldn't be where you're just being completely, brutal with her and you're just like putting it on her and you're trying to tell her, oh yeah, you're not a good Muslim, this and that. Showing, so doing dawah. So dawah is like, spreading the message of Islam, the deen, right? It should be done through your actions. So having a bit more patience with a woman, and when a woman sees that your character is getting better, you're treating her, with respect, being polite with her and so on, and then she's seen how you're becoming a better individual, as time goes on, she'll start to align with your internal values. So she'll start to develop a connection with God as well. So then eventually she'll start to, let's say, pray her 5 prayers, and then she'll start to become consistent with it. Do you understand? Because you as a man, you're leading at all times. You're becoming the best version of yourself, and you're somebody who's leading with your internal values at all times. You understand? So it's really important. So that's that side of it. But there's other things which guys are thinking that if they don't push that, then that's gonna be like brushed under the carpet. So I'm gonna give you guys an example. So let's say, for example, a man is speaking to a woman for marriage purposes, and she doesn't wear hijab. He's thinking, right, as time goes on, as he talks to her, and then let's say they both get married and so on, and he's saying to her, oh, okay, you wear hijab now, this and that. And then she turns around and says, nah, I'm going to wear it in my own time, this and that. This guy here has compromised on the wrong thing in life. So you as a man, right, if hijab and modest clothing was important to you, you should have stated that from the beginning. A lot of guys are just getting violated in the sense of the woman's just out on display for everyone to look at. Now, this is what guys are doing wrong in life. Guys are compromising on certain internal values which they shouldn't be compromising on. And then there's other things which they're too rigid on. There's no balance there. So with the deen, right, the deen is well-rounded. You know? So let's say you're somebody who keeps his prayers, keeps his fasts. You're somebody who's actively, a man who's providing value to society and so on. You're looking for a woman to compliment you in that. So where a woman is, let's say, she prays her 5 prayers, she wears hijab, wears modest clothing, she's somebody who values family and children and so on. You both are compatible there. Does that make sense, guys? So next point is external. A lot of people in today's society are putting too much weighting on external. So you got certain, let's say, guys, they're saying, oh, I want a model looking type girl. I want her to be, flipping. I've had certain guys, right? I'm going to be blunt here. Some of these guys, they ain't got no shame, yeah? They're like, oh yeah, I want a woman who's got like a big back and flipping big boobs or whatever. That's their standard. They ain't got no shame when they say either. Or they want a certain woman from a certain ethnicity. So these guys here have become sexualized. Their thoughts are just sexual. They ain't got no shame, they ain't got no integrity. They're not looking at it from an objective point of view that this person here is for a long-term relationship. It's not for like a hookup type relationship. Now these guys, they are literally just low frequency. And then you've got the woman side of it, the other extreme, where a woman's like, oh, I want a guy who earns 6 figures. He needs to be flipping good looking, successful. He needs to be at least 6 foot. He needs to be flipping this and that. And it's just like, yeah, okay, you've got those things there as what you want. But what are you actually bringing to the table? Because a lot of these people have got unrealistic expectations. You've got certain guys who want like I want a woman to have a certain flipping bra size, like a flipping DD bra size. Otherwise, I'm not interested in her. And you got certain girls who are like, oh yeah, I want a guy who's like flipping 6'3", and I need him to be good looking, and I need him to flipping be successful. It's just stupid. So these people here are just completely lost in life. They've been programmed they've been programmed with too much BS. A lot of people are putting too much emphasis on external rather than internal values. So integrity, class, standards, ethics, good ethics, morals, respect, people who are providing value to the community, doing well in life in other areas related to internal and so on. Why are people not putting more emphasis on that? People aren't doing that. That's what the problem is in today's society. People are just focused too much on money, status, looks, and so on. Now that's why you see relationships breaking down. People are just literally, they're not willing to compromise on their false expectations false expectations of external. They're looking at it and thinking that, oh yeah, that's going to give them fulfillment. So certain guys, they're like, oh yeah, I'm praying that God's going to give me a certain, woman. She's going to be this type and this and that. And then they're just closed off to actual options that God is giving to that person that they're actually compatible with. Now that right there creates real problems in society. Because sometimes, let's say you can have somebody from the same ethnicity who you're compatible with, but there's some people who are from your same ethnicity who you're not compatible with. And then if you're meeting somebody else who's from another ethnicity, and then let's say you both got a strong deen, you both got good character, certain times that's going to be more of a suitable match. Because you've got other important internal values that are more important, that you both align on. But what happens is, right, what I'm seeing is, let's say from Muslim households, so let's say with the girl, right, the mom and dad, they're trying to prioritize finances. So I've had certain guys, right, so let's say myself, and I'll give you some stories, right, certain dads that I've spoken to from, let's say, Pakistani community, their first initial questions are related to finances and related to job title and what sort of lifestyle you're going to be providing to my daughter. All those things. Those are all red flags for me. When those questions are being asked before questions related to the deen, questions related to, am I somebody who keeps his prayers, keeps his fasts, what type of person am I, what's my character like, and so on. When finances are being put above that, that's what the problem is. Those households are literally breaking down on a fundamental level because they're prioritizing dunya over akhirah, over the next life. So this is what it is. This is why I'm trying to push my content towards people in society who are actually prioritizing internal values over external. Because external comes and goes in life. Money, status, fame, you name it. A woman's flipping, good looks, or whatever the case is, whatever BS people have got in their brains. That all comes and goes in life. But integrity, morals, class, standards, ethics, good character, those things stay with you. So that leads us to the next point when it comes to expectations. Society, people have been programmed with false expectations. All they see is social media, these supposedly good-looking, happy couples. They're doing really well in life. They're going on all these holidays. They're eating out in all these restaurants. They look like they're really enjoying themselves. It's all one big facade. Yeah, studies have even shown it. These people here are the most miserable. People who keep their lives private, people who keep their relationships private, they tend to be happier. They don't need external validation and people trying to give them likes and comments to make them feel good. A couple who are secure within themselves, they don't need to post videos and pictures on the internet for people to look at them. But people are going based off of expectations, society's norms and standards. Society's norms and standards right now is to post everything related to your relationship. That's why comparison game right now is at an all-time high. So let's say you're in a relationship with a woman, and then your partner, your woman, she's going on social media. She's seen how her friend, she has a husband, right? Partner has gifted her with some flowers. And then she's looking at that, and then she's thinking to herself, wait, when was the last time my husband gave me some flowers? And then she starts having an argument with him. Like, oh yeah, you don't do this for me, you don't do that for me, this and that. And at certain times of flip and go, her friend is telling her, oh yeah, he doesn't love you, blah, 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 putting all this rubbish into her ear. And then before you know it, them two are separated now. They're not together anymore. He was providing her value in, let's say, other ways. So he may not have gotten her flowers anytime recently, but he was providing her with the sense of security. He was providing her with the sense of, let's say, household. He was paying all the bills, and then he was somebody who was listening to her, and he was providing her with that care. So the man was providing value in other areas, but then she was just so focused on him not getting her flowers recently. You see, that right there is a real problem. That's why social media is a big problem for relationships. People are just playing a comparison game all day long. I'll give you guys another story, right? So one of my other guys that I was working with, so he was like a Pakistani guy, yeah? He was about 35 years old. So his partner was about, I think, 28, 29. So he was about 35. And then they've got a couple kids together. When he was, let's say, providing value to her, she was looking at, let's say, the internet, and he was telling me this. So she was looking at her friends, right? So they had gone on, let's say, 2 holidays that year. And then she was looking at her friends' stories on Instagram. And then that couple there went to, let's say, Dubai. So I think it was like Dubai or something like that. And then his missus was telling him, oh, we should go on holiday, we should go to Dubai. You see what the problem is? Do you guys see how that's why it's so messed up in today's society? It's because people are just competing against each other. If someone's going to, let's say, Dubai, they're like, oh yeah, we need to go to Dubai now. If somebody gets a flipping nice car, they're like, oh, we want to get a nice car now. If somebody gets a bigger house now, they're like, oh yeah, we need to get a bigger house. Because it's just never ending, is it? So that's why with social media, right, it's so important. Post your content related to your purpose and then flipping jump off of it. Don't consume any type of social media. Social media is just no good for your health. If you're going to consume anything, just go onto like YouTube, watch YouTube videos, related to whatever you're watching. Whatever content you guys want to consume on, YouTube and, Google or whatever it is. But Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all these other platforms, all they do is just program people with false expectations of relationships. So, final point is life. The whole goal and objective of a relationship is for you to become the best version of yourself. It's for you to lead your partner to the next life, which is paradise. It's for you to get to paradise. So as a teammate, you both are together on the journey. Now that's what the whole objective of life is. But people get caught up in the whole short-term BS and drama. They're thinking that, oh yeah, if we see this happy couple over here on the internet, then this is what an ideal relationship is. That's not what ideal relationships are. That's not what God wants us to do. God wants us to literally worship Him. That's what our overall purpose is. So when you're in a relationship, when you're with your partner, that's what should be prioritized at all times. Not getting caught up in the whole back and forth BS what you're seeing. So that's what I'm seeing right now in a lot of relationships. A lot of relationships, people are compromising on flipping the wrong things in life. And then there's certain things which they should be compromising on. False expectations. False expectations which they should get rid of. You're going to need to compromise on certain things in life. You're never going to have a person which you're 100% compatible with. There's no perfect partner out there for you. Everyone's got flaws, everyone's got deficiencies, everyone's got weaknesses. So just to wrap up, internal, people are compromising certain times on internal values. So let's say the person's praying 5 times a day. They're entertaining women, or let's say from a girl's side of it, she's entertaining guys who are not praying. That's a problem. They're compromising on the wrong things. So there was another example of, let's say you're somebody who prays, your 5 prayers, you pray, let's say your sunnah prayers, and your partner doesn't pray sunnah prayers. You've got to compromise on that. Sometimes a person's deen is not close to your level or similar to your level. There's other things in life related to, let's say, you're somebody who's more patient. Your partner may be, may have an anger problem. You may be short-tempered. Certain times the person needs to try and get the person on the same page. But that obviously takes time and energy and effort. And then obviously, as time goes on, there's certain other good qualities about the person that makes you realize that, this quality over here is not so bad. So there's a hadith related to that as well, that, if you, for example, find a weakness, a flaw within your partner, there's usually a positive, a benefit of a characteristic that you do like about her. So next point after that was external. So with the external, right, people are focused too much on, let's say, money, status, looks, fame, you name it. You got guys, they're like, I want a woman to have a flipping big bum, big boobs, good looking, all this BS. So objectifying women, and then you got women objectifying men. They're like, I want a guy who's got money, he's got status, he needs to be like flipping 6 foot plus, he needs to be good looking, he needs to be somebody with flipping green eyes, he needs to have this hair type, everything, you name it, all this other BS. And in certain times when she gets a man similar to that, she ends up divorcing him anyway. She ends up splitting up with him. The guy was just like not what she imagined him to actually be like. Because certain times, right, when you got a false expectation, let's say with the man, right, guess with a woman, she supposedly looks pretty on the outside, right? So she looks really pretty. And then when he comes home, right, she's nagging him. She's giving him arguments, headache, drama. She's like to him, you don't do nothing. Why didn't you do this? She's flipping giving him physical abuse. So there's cases out there which guys are getting physically abused. And so what? Those relationships there, they end up deteriorating. Because this is what happens when guys and girls, they put more weight in on external rather than internal. And the next point after that was expectations. Expectations in society is all messed up. In life, right, you have to compromise on certain things. You're never going to get the whole package with a person. Realize that the system has programmed you guys with certain false expectations. And it's your job to actually realize that there's certain BS that you have to remove. The so-called happy couple that's in your imagination, a lot of times it's not going to be that. And then the final point was life. In life, right, everybody has to compromise on certain things. You're never going to get the whole package. You're never going to get the whole deal. It's about you both developing and growing and becoming the best version of yourselves. And your partner's supposed to be a teammate for you. So you both are competing together rather than competing against each other. There's no competition between you and your partner. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.